Welcome to This Explainer. Let's jump right in because today we're tackling a massive challenge that pretty much every entrepreneur faces at some point. We're talking about how to dodge that deadly price war trap and how to genuinely stand out when your market is completely oversaturated. We're going to break down the exact framework you can use to turn a totally generic business into an absolute hyperlocal powerhouse.
It sounds like a simple question, right? But honestly, this is the ultimate test for any business owner. If a potential customer is looking at you and they're looking at three of your competitors, what's the tiebreaker? Why you? Because if you don't have a crystal clear answer to that, you are going to blend right into the background noise. You just become another option on a list. And trust me, that is a really dangerous place to be.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll cover what a USP actually is. Second, we'll look at the 5 benefit categories. Third, we're going to dive into a Dallas case study. Fourth, targeting the weekend warrior. And finally, deploying your USP out into the real world. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1. What exactly is a USP? A unique selling proposition, or USP for short, is that one specific feature of your product or service that makes you fundamentally different from the rest of the pack. It gives your customers a compelling, undeniable reason to choose you. It's not just a catchy slogan. It's literally the DNA of why your business deserves to exist in the market. Domino's Pizza is a perfect example of this in action. It's honestly one of the most famous USPs in history. And notice what they didn't say here. They didn't claim, oh, we have the highest quality ingredients, or our sauce is the absolute most authentic. Nope. They combined a specific functional feature, speed, with a highly desirable, guaranteed benefit to the customer. You knew exactly what you were getting and exactly when you'd get it. The crucial takeaway here is that without a strong USP like that, you are incredibly vulnerable to what we call the price trap. When companies can't figure out how to differentiate themselves, they panic, right? They start slashing prices just to undercut the competition. But listen, competing on price alone is a total race to the bottom. It starts a price war that absolutely shreds your profit margins and threatens your whole business. You simply cannot out-cheap the massive corporations, so you have to outvalue them. Which brings us to Section 2, the 5 benefit categories. If you want a truly effective USP, it's almost always going to live in one of these 5 specific buckets. First, you've got functional. Think of Patagonia building clothes meant to last a lifetime. Then there's economic, focusing on the total cost of ownership over time. Emotional taps into status or peace of mind, kind of like buying a high-end luxury watch. Convenience is about radical service, like being the only spot in town open 24/7. And finally, ethical, where your product aligns perfectly with the customer's beliefs, like using sustainable sourcing. Your perfect USP is waiting in one of these 5 areas. The difference between generic marketing and a true USP is night and day. Claiming you have great quality or excellent customer service, honestly, that's just the basic cost of entry nowadays. If everyone is claiming it, it becomes invisible to the buyer. A true USP requires bold specificity. Saying built to last a lifetime is a measurable, definitive promise that a customer can actually take to the bank. Let's see how this works in the real world with Section 3, the Dallas case study. When you map out your competition, it should look something like this. Look at how a smaller local shoe store can pivot around massive industry giants. You know you can't beat DSW on price, right? So instead, you offer lifetime value with free repairs. You definitely can't out-luxury Highland Park Village, so you pivot to the local legend angle, maybe offering exclusive handmade Texas boots. And there is no way you're beating Amazon on digital convenience, so you pivot to physical convenience with something like doorstep fitting, literally taking the shoes right to a busy professional's downtown office. It's all about finding exactly where the big guys aren't and planting your flag right there. So, for our deep dive today, we're going to build a USP from scratch for an athletic shoe store that focuses specifically on local trail runners in Dallas. Now, a lot of people assume Texas is just completely flat, but local runners know the reality of the local geography. They're constantly dealing with this sticky, thick clay mud called North Texas gumbo and brutally loose limestone that basically feels like running on marbles. That leads us into Section 4, targeting the weekend warrior. The absolute first step here is narrowing down our audience because you just can't sell to everyone. If we target elite ultramarathoners, our USP would have to be all about extreme survival gear for 100-mile runs in the Texas heat. But if we target the hobbyist weekend warrior, their psychological drivers are totally different. They have a day job. They literally cannot afford to roll an ankle on Saturday and miss work on Monday. They prioritize safety, stability, and the confidence to just get out there without getting hurt. So we're going to focus on the weekend warrior. With our target locked in, we can start building a layered USP blueprint. First, we set up a limestone and clay fitting process. Imagine actually bringing local rocks and clay straight into the store so customers can test the grip right there. Second, we curate our inventory as an injury-free buffer, deliberately filtering out shoes that are too flimsy or risky for amateurs. And third, every single purchase includes a physical map that ranks local trails by how tough they are on your ankles and how much shade they have. We aren't just selling shoes anymore. We're selling a complete system of confidence.
When you combine all those layers, you get a highly targeted USP statement that looks like this. Look at how incredibly powerful this is. It hits the exact fear the customer has, getting injured, and provides a highly specific, hyper-local solution. This instantly transforms a store from a generic, run-of-the-mill retailer into an indispensable local expert. A big box store down the street simply cannot compete with that level of specialized terrain knowledge.
All right, let's bring it all home with Section 5, deploying your USP. Having a brilliant USP written on a whiteboard in your back office does you absolutely no good unless you actively deploy it across your marketing channels. We're going to push this local authority message through a really specific 3-step digital deployment process. We want this business to feel less like a store and more like a welcoming base camp for the entire local trail community. Let's break down how this plays out on each channel. First up is your website. This needs to be your conversion engine. Instead of just letting people filter shoes by standard brands like Nike or Hoka, imagine if you added a terrain matcher filter. Your customers could literally sort your online inventory by local trail types, like selecting Rocky Limestone for Cedar Ridge or Clay Gumbo for the Trinity Trails. The second they land on your page, you're proving your USP is real. Next is your Google business profile. When someone in the area searches running shoes near me, you need to capture that local discovery. You do this by tweaking your profile description to explicitly show off your North Texas terrain expertise. You can even add a custom service attribute called local terrain shoe matching. It is a tiny detail, but man, it makes you pop out instantly compared to the generic big box stores in those local search results. Finally, you turn your Facebook page into a true community clubhouse. You're not just throwing up pictures of shoes on sale, you're providing weekly trail condition reports. You let everyone know if a specific trail is too muddy this weekend or if the limestone is perfect for a run. By doing this, you are totally cementing your status as the ultimate local authority. You aren't just pushing gear anymore, you're actively guiding their weekend adventure.
As you can see, hyperlocal specialization is an absolute game changer. By stepping out of the price war and leaning hard into what makes you uniquely equipped to solve a very specific problem, you can completely dominate your niche. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a real challenge. If your biggest competitor suddenly dropped all their prices by 20% tomorrow, what is the undeniable USP that would still make your customers choose you? Think about it.